Stormy Daniels. House Speaker Mike Johnson in court and not gagged.
I'm an attorney. I'm a former litigator myself. I am disgusted by what is happening here. What is being done here to our entire system of justice overall.
President Biden with Rose Garden remarks at noontime to give his rosy view of the jobs and economic picture and 102% tariffs on Chinese EVs after Donald Trump warned that Chinese EVs would end the U.S. auto industry. Candidate Trump mentioned that before court.
He wants to put a big tariff on China, which is a suggestion that I said, where have you been for 3.5 years? They should have done it a long time ago.
America is listening to Fox News.
In the News Center, I'm Stephen Stone. Lancaster County's growth is simply unbelievable, and with that growth comes some issues like, for example, how to control the growing call volume for first responders. Lancaster County Administrator Dennis Marstall talks about what the current state of the first responder system is and what's on the table for the future.
With our growth, we just crossed 108,000 people, citizens living in Lancaster County. We've been, like many South Carolina counties, dependent on the volunteer fire service. But we're seeing our number of people who can volunteer has been declining over the years, and so we have to think about more paid staff. But really, even just fire stations. When you have paid staff, you have to have somewhere for them to be, but also fire trucks. So we are very good about how we work together with all our volunteer fire departments. We have 19 stations. We work as a county to provide the apparatus, the fire ladder trucks, the engines, different things.
Mr. Marstall adds that while they have a coordinated approach, the fire trucks are aging and replacing them is not as easy as you might think, as it takes almost 4 years to bid, order, and deliver a fire truck.
WRHI Rock Hill, W261CY Rock Hill. Good Pharmacy, Rock Hill's hometown pharmacy for over 60 years. Camden Avenue at Ebenezer Road. Straight Talk on WRHI FM 100.1 and CN2 is presented by Founders Federal Credit Union. Relax, you're with Founders. Now here's Manning Kimmel broadcasting live from Substation 2 on Cherry Road in Rock Hill with Straight Talk, selected by the South Carolina Broadcasters Association as the state's top public affairs program.
And a good afternoon. Welcome into Substation 2, Cherry Road across from Winthrop for another edition of our Straight Talk program presented by Founders Federal Credit Union. Relax, you're with Founders. Our thanks to our co-sponsor today, Comporium, your friendly neighborhood tech giant. Piedmont Medical Center is with us today, a community built on care, and you can find out more about them online at piedmontmedicalcenter.com. Very pleased to have back with us for his quarterly visit, roughly, is the business coach, Russell White. And these programs are always very interesting, particularly to people who run a business, a manager of a business, owner of a business. But let me tell you, today, you better pay extra close attention to what is being said. And then when you shake your head in disbelief, go back and listen to the rerun that you can access by listening to WRHI.com, because it's all about a battle that is coming up even more than it already is. We're under attack by our own government, and they're hell-bent on taking away what you have worked so hard to create. Is that about right, business coach?
Oh, I think that's really accurate. I titled the Small Business Planning While Under Attack from Our Government, and there's not hyperbole in that. We are truly under attack. I don't know how many people would remember, but back in February when I was on here, I talked about that all small businesses with fewer than 20 employees or less than $5 million in annual revenue, they have to register with something called the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network in 2024. Basically, the government is saying that we do not trust business owners, and they have to register with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. The second thing that I talked about then was the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau will now require all personal information, demographic information of business owners to process new small business loans. Even if you are an incorporated business, they want the owner's personal data. That has never happened.
And you know why they want it. So they can tax it.
Of course they do. And the final thing that I talked about 3 months ago was how the government's changing the minimum wage, even at the state level. The federal minimum wage hasn't changed, but you tell me one small business owner that is able to hire somebody and they stay at the federal minimum wage. It doesn't happen. It's a misnomer. The number doesn't count. California is up to $20 an hour for minimum wage, especially with fast food businesses and those sorts of things. I think New York's up to $17 an hour. What's happening is, as we've seen, you push this minimum wage up, small business owners are in a vice because they have to figure out How do they not pass all of this on to their consumers and their customers? What can they eat? The profit margins are very thin in a lot of small businesses to begin with, and then the government's going to put additional taxes on top of that. So the squeeze is real. The attack is current, and this is Manning, how long have you owned your own business?
Oh, my gosh.
I've done this for 33 years. I think you've got me beat on that.
Yes, yeah.
And I have never in my career seen anything like what's happening right now with this current administration. And we've been talking about, should Republicans get back in the office, how much of this can they unwind? We know from history that once things are established in the government, they're very difficult to unwind and pull back, especially when we're talking about money, because our government has an unquenchable thirst.
There we go. That's the main reason why all this is happening, is because neither the Republicans or the Democrats have learned how to spend within their budget. They spend, creating a $34 trillion deficit and growing as we sit here and talk.
And this unquenchable thirst is they're not looking in the mirror and saying, how do we eliminate spending? They're just saying, we need more, we want more, where do we get more? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Some new things that are coming along that, frankly, I find very frightening as a business owner.
So let me drop back one step. You were talking about restaurants and the squeeze that they're feeling because of higher wages. It's interesting that just yesterday or day before yesterday, McDonald's, in trying to bring customers back because the prices of their burgers and shakes and everything gotten so high, is somehow going to try to introduce a $5 meal. And people are wondering how they're going to be able to do that, a $5 meal in today's world?
I think their burgers will be wafers.
Well,
they're
yeah.
going to be beef wafers. And but the thing is they're trying to play against the $5. But have you seen what? Well, we're here in Substation 2. We can ask Charlie what produce costs are.
Oh my God,
they're out the roof. And this is where everything trickles down, right? So the government says we mandate that you have to pay these people this rate. We mandate that you have to be taxed at this rate. And all of that cost goes somewhere. And when you're further down the line where most small businesses are, we get pinched there.
All right, so in comes the Biden administration, and they have been doing some wacko things that we hear a lot about in terms of international relationships. But under the radar is all this stuff that's going on that's part of this attack on business.
Well, I think what happens is when you have a forest fire, you don't notice the car fire.
There you go.
And this is what's happening. The media is focusing, when they focus on what's going on with the government, yeah, there we go. What they focus on in the government is the big things. The border's a concern. The money that we're spending that we don't have is a concern. Everybody's missing this piece. In fact, on April 23rd, the Federal Trade Commission, who is not an elected office, issued a final ruling that would virtually ban all non-compete agreements. All non-compete agreements are banned. First of all, this is a colossal overstep of their authority. I mean, they've never had this authority before, and it essentially means that they are overriding written law. Now,
for what purpose? I don't understand that.
Because their opinion is it's restrictive to employees' ability to get jobs.
Well, but non-competes, the way they are put together with cash bonuses behind them for not, if you're not going to compete, you got to pay somebody.
They don't like that idea.
They don't like it. Okay.
So what's going to be very interesting is the courts either have an option to hopefully put an injunction on this until the law can be tested, but if the courts do not put an injunction on this, then this becomes law, and then what happens is then it's fought in the courts for the next 10 years, so it doesn't really matter. So with a non-compete considered no longer valid, no longer law, no longer usable, what does this mean for the employer? Well, I mean, former employees can now take your sensitive information to the competitors. They can create a direct competitor based on
what they learned out of your business.
What they learned out of your business. And I mean, it just has them with any intellectual property that they can take with them mentally. I don't think if they carry out, well, I don't know. If they carry out your playbook, so to speak.
A hard drive.
Or a hard drive, then that is theft, I think. But the fact is the knowledge that you have that's proprietary in your business is now considered fair game. Let's walk this down one more step. If we have a non-compete, and if I know all the trade secrets working for Charlie here at Substation 2, then what's to prevent a monster organization like a Subway, like a McDonald's, like a Wendy's from saying, hey, Russell, we're going to pay you a huge bonus to come work for us and give us those secrets. Now I have a problem keeping my employees. Now bigger businesses can buy basically my trade secrets by pirating and stealing, poaching my people. This is an attack on small business.
Oh, it sure is.
And intellectual property, because your intellectual property is going to become basically obsolete. It doesn't matter. It becomes public domain. We're not ready for public domain because let's walk this down one more step. If intellectual property public domain and I can no longer protect my trade secrets, why do I want to do innovative, new, unique, try new and different things? Because the first one's always the hardest, right?
Sure.
So I plow the field, I figure it out, and then someone else just swoops in, steals it, and runs with it.
This is what China does all the time.
Well, what it's going to do is it's going to inhibit innovation and creativity because there's no value there. And we can get into venture capital as well. If there's no reward to the risk, then why take the risk?
Exactly.
And that shuts it down even further. So this FTC decision to ban non-competes is, maybe it sounds minor, but it's got huge ramifications down the road for small businesses.
Now, we've got small business owners and operators out there that are saying, okay, this doesn't really apply to me, but it does. But what we're about to talk about is really going to apply to you because here comes the hammer. Here comes the hammer, the stuff that you're paying no attention to because you're busy trying to operate your business. So let's tell them about the first treat that's coming down the road.
Well, we've got the 2025 budget proposes a federal capital gains tax set at 45%. It's currently 19%. So
I figured this out, ladies and gentlemen.
This is uncharted territory for the United States. By the way, it will be double China than what they have right now. So let's just say that you're going to sell your small business. The federal government's going to tax the gains on your sale of your business at 5%. Of course, then the states come behind that, and they put taxes on top of that as well. In this country, 5 states will cause you to lose 50% of your profit on your business sale in taxes.
So if you make $100,000 on the sale of your business, you've just lost $50,000 of it.
That's exactly right.
Versus if you just leave it the way it is, you would lose $19,000 plus $5,000, $24,000.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's a completely different ballgame right now.
It's a doubling.
The other thing is fascinating to me that in my research I found out capital gains are not indexed for inflation. So let's say in 1985, I started my business for $15,000, whether I bought a franchise or that's what I invested in my business, just using a round number. Well, when they go to calculate your profit for your capital gains, they don't index that $15,000 from 1985 to 2024. It stays $15,000. So they're not indexing that whatsoever. Plus, the dollar has devalued. None of that goes in there. It's just a matter of you started your business 40 years, 30 years, whatever years ago with this money. You sold it for this money. We want half.
We want half.
We want half, and you don't really have an option.
We want half. We haven't done anything to help you with your business, but we want half. It's ours.
Well, let's say you want to pass it on to your children. Same deal. It's considered a taxable event. You sell out to your partner. Same deal. And this is going to be very interesting because how many partnerships do we have, whether it's accounting, law firms, whatever, when somebody retires, then they sell their ownership back to the other partners. That now becomes a taxable event. Let's say you want to leave it to your children when you pass. You're not going to sell it to them. You're going to make that part of your estate. They are now putting a second death tax on that as a taxable event when it's transferred what that value of the business was. So the government is looking to take this capital gains in any way, shape, or form that they can. And so this is where I'm very, very concerned with this, because when this happens, it will take 2 generations to bankrupt small businesses.
Say that again?
It will take 2 generations of this to bankrupt small business in this country.
Well, not only will you bankrupt them, but there will probably be very few small businesses left.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just going to eliminate.
They're not going to put up with it.
I really wanted to figure out why would the government do this to their own country, and the only solution that I've come to is that When the government bankrupts all the businesses and they take over control of all of the money, what is that called? Socialism.
Exactly
And
right.
so this is all part of an approach to achieve the socialism that the liberals in this country want to have. I don't think they're really thinking this through all the way, because once that happens, businesses disappear, the government has all the money. Who works?
Well, and why don't they take a look at other countries where socialism has been a dismal failure?
Because we can do it better.
Yeah, we can screw it up better. That's exactly right. We can screw it up better.
So I think this is one of the things that's on its own is scary. But let's also increase corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%.
Well, haven't we just reversed? We did reverse that a while back.
When Trump was in office, he reversed that. Now we're moving it back to where
nasty,
it was.
evil, terrible Trump,
Which
brought, I can't tell you how many billions of dollars worth of business back onto the shores of the United States of America.
Yes, and we are, and by basically, this administration wants to increase the corporate tax rate by a third, not 10%, 33%.
Yeah.
They want to go from 21 to 28%. So what happens when that happens? All right, let's walk this down the road a little bit. When expenses go up, what happens? Prices go up.
Oh, yeah.
When prices go up, inflation goes up. When inflation goes up, what gets eliminated? Jobs.
And your buying power.
And your buying power. So this is it's just a head scratcher for me from a business standpoint, that I felt that smart people are the ones that are getting elected. People with business savvy and understanding how actions have consequences. By taking these actions, the consequences are going to be very real. And it's not 20, 40 years down the road. It's today.
And the biggest problem with all of this is not only that it's happening, is that we have a disengaged world. Our country is
Yes.
just not engaged with what's going on.
Well,
they don't pay attention to it.
And I think the divide and conquer is working very well as their strategy, because if we fight amongst ourselves, we're not paying attention to what they're doing.
Well,
and that's what's been happening in this country for the last few years is we are fighting amongst ourselves over smaller issues that these, as you mentioned, a lot of small business owners that I talk to are
Clueless.
unaware
Clueless.
of any of this going on.
Yeah.
Just in our pre-conversation before going on air. There's like a lot of small business owners have no clue. They have not registered with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. They're unaware that capital gains are going to go to 45%. One more. Let me throw one more. I know we got a break coming up. They're proposing an increase on stock buybacks, excise taxes, from 1% to 4%. They're quadrupling the tax rate on stock buyback. Now, the media loves to talk about how this is evil corporations stealing money from investors and all of this. The fact of the matter is, the reason companies do a stock buyback is they have cash holdings that they want to purchase their own stock, number one, to increase the stock value, which is a smart move for shareholders. It gives them a better price versus earnings ratio, which also helps Wall Street see them as a good business, and it's a better return on their equity. All very savvy, smart business moves. So these are decisions that we have now decided that we're going to quadruple the tax rate on this, weakening businesses once again. And this is amazing to me that it's just another threat on business strength. And the policy is, again, it's just this unquenchable need for money. They're not looking at the ramifications. They're saying we need more, we want more, we can demand more, and they're taking it from the business owner. Who are the people that employ all the rest of the people that are employed, and giving people jobs?
And people need to remember this when they talk to their senator or their congressman and say, we need some money for this back home. We need some money for this back home. We need some money for this back home. Well, all that money to come back home is exasperating the problem here, to the point that we have, as I mentioned earlier, $34 trillion in debt. Nobody has the slightest idea how we're going to pay that back.
No, well, I don't think it's my opinion, they've decided we don't have to pay that back.
Yeah.
And so the unquenchable thirst will just continue.
So people say that's just a number. Well, think about this. $1 billion is 1,000 million. $1 trillion is 1,000 billion. Can you count that high?
No, we can't. It's a number. That's my point. It's a number. It is just a number out there. So let's bring it down to small businesses. If you have a couple % profit margin, you're wiping half of that out.
That's exactly right. Exactly. All right, so we have to take our mid-program break. Remind everybody that you are listening to Straight Talk live from Substation 2, Cherry Road across from Winthrop, presented by Founders Federal Credit Union, Relax Your with Founders, and by Comporium, your friendly neighborhood tech giant. Good Pharmacy is with us, your hometown pharmacy, Ebenezer Road at Camden Avenue in Rock Hill. So if you know anything about anything, it's that we make fresh subs and salads here at Substation 2. And there is a way that we do it that keeps bringing people back in here day after day after day after day. It's in these little white letters, and we're all going to chime out together at the count of 3. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3.
Slice, slice, slice. Garden, garden, garden.
Back after these words.
If it's 12:30, it's Straight Talk on WRHI and CN2.
There are lots of reasons why people like dining at Substation 2.
The food, the number 19 is the best.
When I want lunch, I come to Substation 2 because I can't remember never not coming here.
I'm Charlie Ruffalo, and I guarantee you'll feel the same way after eating here at Substation 2, Cherry Road across from Winthrop.
Dr. Carrie Watson, the trauma medical director at Piedmont Medical Center, says she's very proud of what's being accomplished at Piedmont.
We are able to do robotic surgery. We are a robotic center of excellence, and that's robotic surgery for general surgery like gallbladders, hernias, colon. We also have robotic urology, so that's things like kidney removals and things with your bladder. We also have robotic neurosurgery that we're doing, and that's pretty amazing. Not a lot of places have that.
Piedmont Medical Center, a community built on care.
When disaster strikes, one of the most important things is getting life back to normal. A little compassion can go a long way. Paul Davis is here for you. Paul Davis is committed to handling any property damage with exceptional care, because what we do is about more than property. It's about people. We have the training and expertise necessary to completely restore your property fast. For all your cleanup and restoration needs, call the experts at Paul Davis Restoration at 329-1140 or find us online at pauldavisrockhill.com.
Relax with a discounted mortgage rate from Founders Federal Credit Union without paying for discount points. For a limited time, don't pay the 1% fee and get the lower rate. And don't forget, Founders never charges for PMI or private mortgage insurance. Unlock your dream home with a great rate and a Founders expert to guide you through the home financing process. Stop by a convenient office location or apply on Founders online by May 31st to lock in your lower rate. Visit foundersfcu.com/mortgage to learn more. Terms and conditions apply. Membership qualification required. Equal housing lender.
Have you ever wondered why so many people enjoy dining at Substation 2?
The food is really good, and it's a great price.
The hot meatball subs with jalapenos.
A good deal for a delicious sandwich.
I'm Charlie Ruffalo, and I guarantee you'll feel the same way after eating here at Substation 2, Cherry Road across from Winthrop.
Straight Talk on WRHI FM 100.1 and CN2 is brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Relax, you're with Founders.
And back we are here at Substation 2, Cherry Road across from Winthrop. Russell White, the business coach, is with us. And if you have not had your ears on, go back and listen to the replay of this program on WRHI.com because this is some serious stuff.
Not exactly Mr. Happy today, am I?
No, it's not very much. And the happiness is, or the lack of happiness, is about to continue. Keep going here, brother.
Well, the Biden administration recently published draft guidelines to allow federal governments to invalidate patent license agreements.
Invalidate?
Invalidate patent license agreements because they don't want. This is their reasoning. They want to be able to not have medical companies withhold patents for 17 years and cost and charge drugs for medications at an exorbitant rate so everybody can have access to it. However, this is being applied to all technologies. Now,
so if you invent something, forget about protecting it.
Well, here's the thing. You're not going to because high-end innovation requires a lot of venture capital.
Yeah.
A huge amount of investment, seed funding for the small businesses that are creating that. If the risk is there, but there really is no reward, then it eliminates all venture capital, as I mentioned earlier. So patents are going to also be government-controlled, and they're going to decide how they're used. Now, the next part is something I didn't even know existed, and that's called the abuse of march-in rights.
What is that?
March-in rights are something that the government has had in place for decades, and what it is, it was allow the government to control government-sponsored, taxpayer-financed research discoveries. So if a university was able to do some research on cancer research or
using a federal grant to do it.
Using a federal grant to do that, then the government was able to march in and protect that invention from not being shelved by the company until it was to their advantage to use it. So that was the original reason for the march-in rights. However, this administration is interpreting this that they can now, they believe that they can march in on any patents and establish price control. So they believe that they can now invalidate the patent if the company are setting prices that the government deems unreasonable, not the marketplace, that the government deems unreasonable. And this will be deployed across all technologies. It was passed or it was put forward because of medical, but they will apply it to all. AI is going to be the whole thing. They're going to come in and they want to control all patents on that. Sure. So when I titled this as attack on the government, I was being serious. Yeah. I have never seen in 12 months' time this amount of government bureaucracy and just awful decisions, all coming against small business owners.
And all under the radar, which is amazing to me.
Basically,
we are so concentrated on Trump this, Trump that, Trump this, Trump that the media is not paying any attention or doing the job they're supposed to be doing.
Well, as I said before, when you have a forest fire, you don't see the car fire.
I got you.
Because everybody's focusing on
All right, so now that you've ruined everybody's day.
Actually, I enlightened everybody. Okay. Let's look at it that way.
Look at it that way. Okay. So enlighten us as to what options we have to try to deal with this, keeping in mind that trying to get 435 members of the United States Congress to listen to this and pay attention to it is probably the equivalent of beating my head against this wall.
Well, I think we have no commonality in our government, and right now in our country, there doesn't seem a lot of commonality either. So what I suggest, I said this is planning. So I've set the table with all of this. I've got 3 quick planning ideas for small business owners on how to act under these guidances, I guess you would call them.
Guidances.
Number 1, sell now.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean that. I'm not joking. If you're close to selling your business and retiring, act sooner rather than later. There's a 30% of your profit is hanging in the balance on how you decide to do that.
If they don't decide to make it retroactive.
Let's hope they don't do that.
I'll be the next
Depending on the size of your business assets, the money difference between the current tax rate and the future tax rate will be significant. So if you are close to retirement, if you are thinking about selling your business, you need to do that sooner rather than later. Now, this is not going to get passed within a day, but it will be within a year and a half. And so it's critically important that you have your ducks in a row, because you can't just sell a business. You got to, evaluate it, find the proper person that's going to buy it, and do your own personal financial planning when it comes time to sell the business. Not everybody's in that position. So if you're going to stay in business, the next thing I think you need to do is, if non-competes are no longer allowed, if trade secrets can be put out for anywhere, if people can walk away with your IP, then I encourage business owners to look at any way that they can replace employees with technology. Because the technology, you don't have to worry about transparency. Technology you can control unless you're hacked on whether your information gets out. With employees, you no longer can do that. So this is crazy. It's going to drive jobs away and get them replaced with technology. And the last thing that I have is, if you're unable to retire and you own a business, then you have one growth strategy, and that is to merge with another business, consolidate with other businesses, or start acquiring businesses that are going to be selling and getting out from under this. That way you create a higher level of wealth, and not that you're necessarily going to keep more, but there is more that you're able to get when we talk to raw dollars. So banks have been doing this for decades. There's no growth in banking. It's just merger and acquisitions. Small businesses need to do the same thing. Do you want to be the acquirer, or do you want to be the acquired? Do you want to be the person that's setting up the consolidation within your industry, or are you going to let someone absorb you? Lots of decisions that small business owners have to make. But I will tell you that getting away from employee-based business, going technology, and getting the attitude of the way I grow is not through customers, it's through business acquisition. That's a real shift for a lot of small business owners.
You. So with all of this, you got to ask yourself, is the buyer of your business going to be smart enough to see all this on the tea leaves and say, why do I want to get in this?
Oh, but see, here's the thing, though. If you get above a certain level, if you can consolidate an industry, you create a monopoly, and the government doesn't care about monopolies right now. So if you are the best at something within your community, you kind of own that. Also, if you're gonna lose half to taxes, have more so you get to keep more.
So I'm guessing that really the other part, the only hope here, is that people will pay attention to what we're saying. And when it comes time to the election, they will be asking those who are wanting to represent you, what do you think about these issues and where do you stand on these issues? I don't care whether they're red or blue.
I will promise if you go to a political debate within this year and you say, tell me all about the financial protection bureaus, what they're doing with this kinds of things. Tell me all about the financial crimes enforcement network and why do I as a business owner have to
and the corporate tax rate going from 21 to 28 and the capital gains, going up. I got you. Russell, this has been a very depressing program, but I thank you for bringing it to our attention because it's the kind of stuff people don't like to hear, but they need to hear.
Critically informative. You need to know what you don't know.
And again, this will be on WRHI.com for a replay here in about 20 minutes. Make sure you go back and listen to it and tell others about it. And that's going to wrap up our Straight Talk program live from Substation 2, Cherry Road across from Winthrop. Presented by Founders Federal Credit Union, relax here with Founders, and by Comporium, your friendly neighborhood tech giant. Okay, we got the Rogues Gallery here. Everybody knows what we're going to do. We do fresh subs and fresh salads, and we do it 6 days a week here at Substation 2. How do we do it? If you don't know it, you're going to hear about it right now. At the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
Slice, slice, slice. Garden, garden, garden.
Have yourself a wonderful day. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow. Bye.
South Carolina's most honored radio station. News Talk 100.1 WRHI Rock Hill. W261CY Rock Hill. The voice of York County.
An OTS media station.
Friendly, then fireworks. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. The appellate division of the New York Supreme Court has rejected former President Trump's attempt to end a gag order that's prevented him from speaking publicly about witnesses. Legal team now has the opportunity to appeal that to the New York Court of Appeals. Michael Cohen, meantime, is on the stand for a second day at the criminal hush money trial in New York. He's the prosecution's star witness. Cross-examination will attempt to show that he's a liar. The former president, again, criticizing that gag order.
The gag order has to come off. So when you ask me a question about the people that we're talking about, I'm not allowed to answer. There's never been anything like this in the history of our country. It's a scam. It's election interference at a level that's never taken place before.
House Speaker Mike Johnson there to support the former president.
This is the fifth week that President Trump has been in court for this sham of a trial. They are doing this intentionally to keep him here and keep him off of the campaign trail. And I think everybody in the country can see that for what it is.
President Biden gives a commencement address this weekend. The White House wants it to go smoothly.
The director of the White House's Office of Public Engagement, Stephen Benjamin, met with a group of students and faculty at Morehouse College in Atlanta last week. The New York Times first reported the meeting. Benjamin's trip comes as some in the college community raised objections to President Biden's commencement address, scheduled for this Sunday because of the president's support of Israel in Gaza. Administration officials say the president supports peaceful protest, but that commencement ceremony should celebrate the accomplishments of students. President Biden will also address the commencement at West Point later this month. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Wholesale prices rise 0.5% last month. That's more than most economists expected. That inflation is 2.2% on a year-to-year basis. America's listening to Fox News.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here. Let me ask you this. Does inflation feel worse than what we're being told in the news? That's because the official inflation rate doesn't tell the whole story. Since January 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back, but what you can do is stop your losses today. How? By diversifying your savings into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. When you're done, your money will be parked in a tangible asset with a proven history. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word PROTECT